My name is Benjamin Binder. I am a research scientist, postdoctoral researcher at Florida International University.
My name is Kirk Gastrick. I'm a marine ecologist at Florida International University in the biology department.
My name is Gina Clementi. I'm a researcher in the Marine Ecology and Acoustics Lab at Florida International University.
And we're here studying Permit the fish. The primary goal of this project is to assess how permit spawning aggregations have responded to the implementation of the Western Dry Rock seasonal closure. It's about 12 miles southwest of Key West, and we've been doing this for about 5 years, looking at how the change in abundance, their occurrence, individual sizes, the shift in size distribution has changed, and we're really interested in how the closure itself affects their occurrence and distribution. So we started this in 2018, primarily using hook and line surveys. So our efforts focused around replicating their recreational fishing behavior, and on top of our own hook and line surveys, we were also observing fishing pressure simultaneously. So we would try and simulate what fishermen on site were doing, taking record of how many fish they were catching, how long they were fishing, the different types of boats that were there, how many people were there. And while doing so, of course, we had to fish ourselves, and so we used similar gears to the charter fishing community to look at catch rates and size distribution of permit on the aggregations, assessing catch per unit effort in a way, as well as just overall fishing pressure of aggregated permit in the Keys. Number of people per hour fishing a discrete area. So these aggregations are quite small. It'd be 100 meters by 100 meters, one artificial reef, one small patch reef, and the majority of the effort is focused on that one spot. So on any given day, you might see 5 to 20 different boats with 2 to 5 passengers per boat fishing for permit. And on any given day, we've seen over 100 fish caught, 100, 150 attempts made. We've employed a couple of different active acoustic techniques. So we use split beam echo sounders, which is like your traditional fish finder, just a little bit fancier, and a combination of acoustic imaging cameras or multi-beam sonars. And that allows us to see a very wide angle, horizontally as well as vertically, so we can look at the shape of the schools throughout the water column as well as across the water column. And then what we know about the size distribution of the individuals of those we've caught, we can apportion the average space taken up by an individual to the size of the school seen in the multi-beam and tell you how many fish are there. Not as much is fishing causing a problem, but since this seasonal closure was implemented, do we see a change in the overall abundance and occurrence of permit, the size distribution maybe, or total abundance itself?
Down here in the Keys, most people consider open fishing season for permit as a catch and release fishery. And that's because there's a closure below a certain latitude. And so in the Keys, essentially, people go out, fish for permit, catch them, and release them. So no one's taking them. The seasonal closure, in effect, is causing a complete shutdown of fishing in an area. Permit aside, you can't fish for mutton snapper, you can't fish for permit, you can't fish for snapper, you can't fish for anything. So it's a closure of an area which restricts entrance into it and any activities. So one of the main goals of closures, seasonal and otherwise, is to relieve some of the pressure on these populations. So if there's no pressure at all on them with people fishing or people diving and disturbing any of the benthic habitat, then the idea is that anything that's there can have an uninfluenced ability to reproduce and maybe grow its population size some. And the idea behind having a small area with the ability to generate a lot of fish is that those fish will then move to other areas. also looking at other things that can maybe indirectly affect population sizes, such as depredation.
So depredation is when a predator, such as a shark or barracuda, consumes the hooked fish that an angler is trying to reel in. So that occurs, in the commercial sector on, tuna, pelagic longlines, and even just hook and line, fishing on a reef, trying to bring up a snapper or a permit, and gets chomped on by a shark. And so some of the predators we see out there at these natural reefs, such as western dry rocks, there is a healthy population of Caribbean reef sharks and some other transient predators like great hammerheads that come through in the cooler winter months as they make their migration northward up the Florida Keys. And even now here in March, we see the resident Caribbean reef sharks, and they're pretty plentiful. Last April, we saw well over 10 on video that we deployed at the sites. And these great hammerheads too, they come in, they'll check out the boat as we cruise by our site. So they definitely will like to peruse the area and see what kind of offerings the reef can provide. And if that is a hooked fish, then that is an easy meal for them. Yeah, so I think an important priority of this project is the data that we collect, on the abundance of the permit at the spawning aggregations, how that varies over time, how fishing pressure and resulting depredation affects that abundance. And that data can be used to inform policy. For example, the closure is a direct result of that research. So being able to continue to inform management decisions in that capacity is going to be incredibly important for conserving, game fish like permit, and also protecting other species that inhabit those areas and spawn there as well. It could be, depredated, and that would not occur if it were not for us fishing. These are not normally natural occurrences. Caribbean reef sharks don't usually prey upon permit. These are, permit are pretty agile fish, so that's something that is a direct result of human influence. So. So a solution to that mortality associated with catch and release, and specifically depredation, is looking at, when the highest occurrence for that, so is it during spawning aggregation season, which occurs at a set time, at a set month, So for example, permit, they spawn during the full moons from March through June, highest in April and May. So if we can isolate those temporal and spatial closures for protecting them from that catch and release depredation, that would be something to help them in the long run. So introducing spatial and temporal closures would help with that mortality.